Welcome to the Football Pyramid Talk podcast. Available to listen to on YouTube and Spotify. George, Simon and Stirling as your hosts. 7 different leagues. Enjoy the episode. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Football Pyramid Talk podcast. Episode 42 today. Just me and Simon at the minute, but we will have Stirling a little bit later into the video. He's just in a bit of traffic on the way back from work from the time we were due to start. But Simon, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
All good, yeah. It's been a week of crazy football. We've had people kicked out of playoffs, we've had champions crowned, and we will be reacting to our full non-league predictions at the end of this episode to see who will be crowned as the winner of the non-league predictions. First, second and third, we have National League South and the National League today, so Ishmael Premier Division last episode. If you haven't seen that, then check it out. But we start off as usual in the Premier League, and we have got our Premier League champions in Arsenal, Man City, drawing to Bournemouth, which confirmed it after they beat Burnley 1-0 at home. A lot of controversy in that game, you know. I mean, set piece again, LA is what they were singing at the Emirates, because another set piece from Kai Havertz into the roof of the net, and then a very, very controversial VAR decision to not send off Kai Havertz. I mean, it was one of the most blatant red cards I think I've ever seen. Straight down the back of his calf, nowhere near the ball, and they have a look at it, and I just don't see how that's not clear and obvious. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, the only mitigating circumstances is he was stretching for the ball. I don't think he was aiming to do any mischief to the player. So
Yeah,
I suppose you could argue from that perspective that he was it would have been harsh to send him off. But I think it's another one of those where it's probably an orange card, isn't it? Really?
yeah. That's the rule they're trying to see if they can implement it into the game for tackles like that. Because obviously Burnley were on the counter attack when they didn't really create anything in that game, did they? Arsenal defending very well, but over the
No, but
course of the season,
to be
yeah, go
fair
on.
to Burnley, they did play. They
They
played
did,
well. They didn't.
yeah, they did very
They
well.
played. They played a prideful game, and I don't think they should. Be denigrated for the way they
No,
played. I
no, no,
thought
no.
they turned up and gave it a good go. I mean, we were talking last night about Freiburg and the fact that
Yeah,
they sort of went toe to toe with Arsenal for a bit, but Aston Villa. But once
yeah.
Villa got in front, they just sort of packed up. Really, I don't think they tried anything other than trying to keep the score down to something respectable once they went one down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Burnley just kept at it, I thought. And I think they're probably in a better position in terms of the Championship than Wolves are now, because
yeah.
the noises off from Wolverhampton are that the fans are not happy with that manager. And they're not
No,
happy
well,
with the
those
squad.
was, yeah.
I don't think that situation is going to improve over the summer.
No, I don't think so either. I saw something, it was like BBC Wolverhampshire or something like that, a Wolverhampshire like radio station, and they had Rob Edwards on the stage for the fans to speak to him. Fans were basically just telling him what's going on, and he's having to like explain himself. He's clearly under a lot of pressure, and you can see that from what the fans were asking him at that sort of press conference. But Burnley, I thought, as you just said, I think they gave it a really good go for a side that know they're already relegated and are in the Championship next season. I think they can sort of use that. Obviously, they've got Wolves on the last day of the season as well. I remember looking at that. So that'll be a confidence booster going into the Championship, coming off of a big win. But, you know, Arsenal, professional as always, I think they've deserved it over the course of the season. First time in 22 years, isn't it? And, you know, apart from that stint in April where, you know, they lost the EFL Cup, they lost at home to Bournemouth, you know, they had some really tricky results. And then Man City, I think we all said it at one point. We thought after that Man City game where they lost at the Etihad, we all thought that City would go on to win it, but City just dropping points to Everton, and then obviously the 1-1 draw, which you wanted to speak about between Man City and Bournemouth, sort of has earned Arsenal that title going into the final day.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody enjoyed watching Arsenal this season, and I think
Awful, yeah. I've got to be
as,
honest.
as champions, they're going to need to change their attitude because I don't think the football public in this country is going to put up with the champions playing the sort of football they played,
No,
with the negative anti-football sort of display that they put on. That's going to not go down well. I think people put up with it because they knew that they needed to win the title this year. But
yeah,
as champions, they've got to change it entirely.
yeah.
And that's for
Oh,
City. Well, I never felt comfortable with the fact that City could catch
no, me
Arsenal.
neither.
This game, especially at Bournemouth, I thought would be a banana skin.
Yeah,
And to be
same
honest
here.
with you, they were lucky to draw because Bournemouth were phenomenal. The work rate,
100%.
absolutely incredible work rate. And there was an interview with um, the Bournemouth defender, was it James Hill, in The
Yeah,
Guardian
yeah, hell.
on
Hmm.
Tuesday. And he was talking about the fact that what Iriola demands above and beyond anything else is that constant pressing. And
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it? Yeah.
it's testament to his skill, but also to the backroom way they built that squad so that he can turn around to the bench and pick a couple of players to replace people that are flagging.
Yeah.
But David Brooks had two chances to bury
Oh,
City.
oh no.
Hit the
Yeah,
post with one, missed the first one because he'd just come on. But I mean, he really should have. They should have been dead and buried. But the point wasn't enough for him, and it was never going to be enough. I don't think so. Pep is probably on his way with 2 cups to his tally, and Maresca is going to take over the reins.
yeah, it's looking like it, isn't it? Pep Guardiola's been heavily rumoured to be leaving Man City, and Enzo Maresca looks like he's going to be replacing him. Big call, obviously. I mean, basically, since I was about 8 years old, Pep Guardiola's been the manager of Man City, so it's sort of like Jurgen Klopp leaving Liverpool when Arne Slot came, and it's just like you look at Man City and you think, oh, Pep's the manager, but now it's not going to be that way, which is going to be strange for a lot of football fans. I mean, unbelievable time at Man City, of course. You know, ending his time, obviously not with the Premier League that he would have wanted, but still got an EFL Cup and an FA Cup to his name. And what it was 20 trophies in the end, 10 years, 20 trophies, I think it was, which is just
Yeah,
absolutely incredible.
but whether you
Absolutely
count the
incredible.
Community Shield or not,
What was that? Sorry.
whether you count the Community Shield, and most people don't.
Yeah, I mean, if Brighton won the Community Shield, I'd definitely count it. But that's Brighton, isn't it? Maybe not for Man City because of what they've won. But yeah, I mean, Maresca going in there. How do you think he'll get on? Because I thought out of a bad bunch of Chelsea managers, I think he did the best out of your Pochettinos, your Rossinias as examples, but just had a drop off this season, but his experience at the club, he's been a part of Pep's coaching staff, obviously before he moved on to Leicester. How do you think he'll get on? Because it is big shoes to fill, isn't it?
I think it all depends on the recruitment there. Personally, I
Yeah,
mean, that squad needs towing in line, and it needs senior pros to be brought into that club,
yeah,
and that means that Blueco have got to rip up their formula, and they've got to recruit players that have got no resale value. They've got to recruit people that can go in
yeah.
there and stamp their authority on the squad because it can't all be down to Maresca.
No,
I think it will depend on who he recruits as his assistant because, like we said, Rossini might have lasted a bit longer if he'd made a better choice of assistant. But I think above and beyond that, the recruitment of senior pros into that squad has got to be something they've got to look at. I mean, where they turn for those players, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about this on the way
yeah,
into work today, and I thought, I wouldn't be surprised if Casemiro turned up there, you know? I mean, I don't know what
yeah.
his situation is and whether he wants to go and play in Europe, in Spain, or whether he wants to go back to Brazil. But I mean, he'd be a perfect
Mhm.
fit to go into that squad and play It's not even about. It's like the players at Brighton. It's not about them playing. It's not the minutes on the pitch. It's their
It's
attitude.
what they bring. Yeah, it's what they bring
Yeah,
to the
it's what they
squad.
what they bring to training, what they bring to the game day,
Hmm.
all of that sort of stuff. And unless they address that elephant in the room, Chelsea, he's not going to do very well, I'm afraid, because the squad's got those inherent problems.
Yeah, I mean, they do need it, don't they? And I think I saw something from Fabrizio Romano, who's a very, very reliable source. He's been saying that the sort of transfer window and the recruitment process has already started because it is pretty nailed on that he's going to be replacing Pep Guardiola there. I think you make a good point. They've got to recruit well because you can see it going quite badly, can't you, if they don't recruit properly? Because they need that valuable experience in there with senior pros that have done it throughout their career. And if they don't and buy youngsters like Chelsea do, as an example, just buy your own Andre Santos's and just buy young players and hope for the best, you know what I mean? They need to buy players that have done it in their career. They know they're reliable if they come to Manchester City because Pep's brought a massive name onto that football club. It's one of the biggest football clubs in Europe now since he's sort of taken reign because of how much he's done. You know, winning the Premier League 6 times, won the Champions League, numerous amounts of EFL Cups and FA Cups, and obviously, if you want to count the Community Shield, as you said earlier on. But I think Casemiro. I think you agree. You'd want someone like that. You'd want a similar player to him because you know that he's done it before. He's done it throughout his career. He's proven that. He's got what 9, 10 goals for Man United this season. That's incredible for his age, and he's probably been, apart from Bruno, their best player. Especially since Michael Carrick's come to the side, he's been involved in the goals a lot more than he used to be. But very, very interesting talking point. Pep Guardiola to be leaving. I think it's going to be announced very soon, maybe on Sunday. I'm not too sure, but yeah, it's looking like it's gonna be happening. Pep Guardiola, sorry, to leave Manchester City at the end of the season, which will be a massive, massive change to that football club. But also on Sunday, probably I'm still nervous now having to speak about it. Brighton on the final day to Manchester United. It all comes down to this really. For the European race, it's Europa League. It could even be Champions League, but that's very, very optimistic because of Bournemouth drawing. And then I'll be here for ages if I speak about the results that have to go our way to get into the Champions League. But Europa League looks on the cards. Drawing would be most likely Conference League, and then if we don't win, we just got to rely on other results. How do you think it's going to end up? You said on last Sunday after I couldn't believe it, the heartbreak at Leeds. It was just absolutely devastating. I couldn't believe it. I think you remember my reaction. I was just absolutely devastated because the point would have been all right at Leeds. It would have put us in a really good position going into that game on Sunday. But now we've just got to do classic Brighton and be a nervous wreck at the ground, haven't we?
I won't be. I don't think Brighton are going to struggle to get into Europe because essentially what you're looking at is two of Brentford, Chelsea, and Sunderland have got to win to stop Brighton qualifying for Europe.
Yeah,
And Brentford are at Liverpool, and Chelsea and Sunderland are playing each other. So
yeah,
I can't see that all happening personally. I can't see two of those three teams winning because frankly I think Brentford will lose at Anfield.
yeah. I
Um,
think so.
they
Yeah,
haven't, they haven't, they're not on a good run, Brentford, and I know Liverpool have got lots of frailties. That crowd will be demanding that they end the season on a positive note going into the summer recruitment round, and he needs to start like a train next season slot. And if he doesn't end the season on a positive note, it's going to make that even harder to do come August. So
yeah,
I can't see Brentford picking up 3 points there. And that's for Chelsea and Sunderland. That makes it immaterial what happens there. But
yeah.
I don't expect either of them to win that game. I think that would be a draw.
I do. Honestly, it seems biased, but I honestly think it will be a draw, and Brentford
Yeah.
will go to Anfield and win. I think I'd say that if I was neutral as well, if I had to predict games, even if Brighton weren't to be in Europe. But you were saying this when I was at your house on Sunday. I think Brighton will stand a very good chance against Man United anyway. They're
Yeah,
on the beach.
yeah,
They've got
yeah, and
absolutely nothing to play for. They're in third already. They can't go higher and they can't go lower. So they're basically just playing for pride and passion. Do you know what I mean? And we're going to be smack up for it, knowing last game of the season at our place. You know, players will be doing laps around the pitch after, so they'll be. They just know in the back of their heads that if they go on to win this, if they make that moment happen, there's going to be so many Brighton fans absolutely buzzing, and obviously we're going to be one of them. Some of them, obviously, but yeah, I mean, I think we're going to get in there. Personally, I really hope we do because I'll just be an absolute mess if we don't, to be honest. But yeah, it's like a 92% chance. I saw something from a data analysis, but I don't really know how that works. But
well,
clearly, he's
it
figured that
basically
out from
boils
somewhere.
down. Yeah, it boils down to what we said. Brighton aren't going to lose on Sunday. I don't know if they'll win, but they won't lose. And two of Brentford, Chelsea, and Sunderland aren't going to win. So that's why you get 90% chance of Brighton getting into Europe. I think Brighton will finish seventh, personally,
Mm.
and I think they will qualify for the Europa League. And I think that is going to be a big ask because I think they're
Yeah,
more of a natural Conference League club, frankly. Because the Conference League, if you look at the teams that Chelsea put out when they won it last season,
yeah,
and even West Ham the year they won it, you can afford to play some of your fringe squad members, sort of youth
mm,
players almost in those games because you're not up against top elite level clubs a lot of the time
yeah,
until you get into the knockout stages. Whereas the Europa League, I think you are going to be playing against those sort of calibre of clubs, that mid-tier calibre of club like your Ajax and your Marseille, even maybe. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's going to be a tough ask. I think that's going to be impactful on the squad. But I
mm,
think that's where they'll finish, frankly. As I said, I think Brentford lose, Chelsea and Sunderland draw, Brighton probably draw or win, and they'll finish seventh.
yeah.
Champions
That's
League
what.
football. People quite
Uh,
asking for Brighton to get into the Champions League. You got to be careful what you wish for because
yeah,
that
I'm the
is a
same.
level, that is a step up, and it's not to suggest that Brighton can't play against those Champions League clubs, but can they play against those Champions League clubs week in, week out, as well as compete in the Premier League? And that's difficult.
It is, yeah. That's what I've been saying. I was saying to you when we were watching the Leeds game. I don't know why the commentators just constantly going on about the Champions League. I'm just like, I want to get into Europe first, not be thinking about that. And if we were going to get in there, I doubt we'd do very well. Let's be truthfully honest. If we get into the Europa League or Conference League, I think we've got a chance of winning it. I think the time we got into the Europa League was very unlucky because we played Roma, and then you had Liverpool in there as well. Bayern Leverkusen went invincible that season in the Bundesliga, and you had Atalanta that beat Liverpool, didn't they? You just had such big teams in there, and Freiburg in the final. No offense to them at all, obviously getting to the final, but Aston Villa spent triple the amount of money they did in the summer than Freiburg spent, and they got themselves to a final. It's not anything against them; it just shows that a squad that's quite vulnerable in terms of the amount they have, and they've got themselves to a Europa League final. I think it just depends on the competition that we have. Because if you look at that Europa League, I reckon we could have got to the final if we base it off of the teams that were in that Europa League this season. And obviously, the Conference League is winnable because you see, well, obviously, I don't like Crystal Palace, but Crystal Palace are in 16th, 15th in the Premier League and they're in the Conference League final. So it sort of shows the standard of that. I don't know if that's a bit harsh, but it
Well,
just
I think
shows that the
it's fair.
Conference League. Yeah, go on.
That's fair, but I read somewhere about the Conference League. You don't make money playing in the Conference League. I think that's one of the things that Brighton will be wary of.
Yeah.
And something like 75p in every pound of prize money that the UEFA give goes to UEFA to the Champions League.
Mm.
About 19 pence goes to the Europa League, and you're left with 7 or 8 pence in the pound goes to the conference. And they were saying in the article I read that they reckon Palace have lost money on this run because you can't charge top premium prices for tickets, you can't sell the sponsorship, you get not much in TV rights because the games
Mhm.
are going ahead with the Europa League games.
Yeah.
Um, but you end up out of pocket almost. You're going to be playing the players' bonus bitten into Europe and progressing. So I think Europa League is a step above what Brighton could expect to play in, but I fully expect them to be there.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see where they end up. Hopefully, in some sort of European competition. I think we will. Fingers crossed, but we will have to wait and see. We will get Sterling's verdict on the Premier League when he does get here. He should be any second now. But we will move on to the Championship, where there is one thing and one thing only to talk about this week in this league, and that is Southampton being kicked out of the playoffs. You called it, Simon. Fair play to you if you listened to last episode. They've been kicked out for spying on opponents. They have revealed the games that they spied on. It was 3 games, and they didn't win any of them, funny enough, which I think is just absolutely incredible. They spied on the game and they haven't even managed to win it, which is ridiculous. 2-1 away defeat to Oxford, a 2-2 draw to Ipswich, and then the first leg against Middlesbrough in a 0-0 draw. But they appealed the decision, that was declined, and they've got a 4-point deduction next season to add on top of that. We put a poll out on our Instagram page. Thank you to everyone who responded because they are quite handy for speaking about it on the podcast. 69% of you said it was the correct decision, and 31% of you said no. That's what you had to say. I agree with the 69% of you that say it is the correct decision. You obviously think it's the correct decision, Simon, after what you said. Do you think they've handled this in the right way and have, got to the correct decision in the end?
Yeah, I think Southampton have handled it in the correct way because they didn't really contest the facts of the matter.
Mm.
The only thing they let themselves down a little bit on was appealing, in my opinion, because they didn't have a leg to stand on. So I don't really understand why they did that. And if I'd been on the committee, I would have been suggesting that we would have increased the penalty because of
Yeah.
the appeal being spurious, frankly. It was interesting. I was listening to the build up to the Europa League final last night, and they were talking to a German football journalist, obviously because of Freiburg, but he was talking about the Southampton situation. He said it's not the same culture in Germany. There's a little bit more leeway in terms of this sort of behaviour. And he was talking about when Klopp was at Mainz, he
Yeah.
paid one of his researchers to dress as a steward
Hmm.
and go to a training match of one of the opponents that Mainz were going to be playing and pretend that he was a steward whilst he was scouting the game. And he made great play of how funny that was afterwards, Klopp. But the fact of the matter is, I think after what had happened in the Olympics with the Canadian women's football team, I think leagues around the world have clamped down on it. So I don't expect that situation still pertains in the Bundesliga. But it definitely doesn't apply in the championship because there's
No.
the rule that says you can't do that, and it's written down. The only thing that isn't written down is the penalty.
Yeah.
So they were banged to rights, and it was obvious right from the moment they got caught that they were going to get kicked out of it. I can't believe that Middlesbrough weren't preparing to. Well, I know they went back in training on Monday, didn't they?
Yeah, I saw something about how they were going to keep on training,
Yeah,
which obviously is come into favour because they obviously have got the decision to be playing in the final. But you know, you're saying they only came back Monday. The appeals. What the final was last week, so they could have had an extra 2, 3 training sessions in there if they sort of did it straight away and just kept training as soon as that final had ended. But that
Yeah,
could be a
well,
factor going into that final.
I was surprised by that, but then given the players a little bit of a break might have done them good in terms of their mental reset.
Yeah,
And Middlesbrough have got to be heavy favourites really if they can get Hayden Hackney fit. I think that
hundred
all the
percent.
signs are Kim Hellberg is saying that he's going to be fit and ready to go on Saturday. So I'll make them strong favourites to win that game. I think Hull would have been second favourites whoever they played, frankly. But the fact that Hackney's going to maybe feature in some or part of the game for Middlesbrough means that they've got to be favourites. And I think they will get promoted.
Yeah, I think you could see in that Southampton game in the second leg, especially that he was massively missed in that midfield for Middlesbrough. He helps that team tick so much, and helps them sort of, I don't know, strive towards victory a bit more because of how he sort of dictates the play. And they sort of missed it in that second leg massively. Having him back will be huge. I agree with you. That'll sort of, I think, put their chances of winning up a lot than, without him. I think that's the same for the Southampton game as well. I think we said that. If they had Hackney, it would have been a completely different game. But having him back
Yeah.
for this whole City game will be huge in itself. But yeah, Southampton obviously went to appeal the decision, but it got declined, I think, pretty quickly. Not long at all. I think it was just a couple of hours later that the decision got declined, which really isn't a surprise. And it's on themselves. They've got themselves a 4-point deduction to come back from at the start of next season as well, which is just, it's ridiculous, isn't it? That this is even happening, and it's been rumoured that Tom Eckert might even be sacked for what he's done because he's obviously put his coaching staff into that situation, hasn't he? By getting him to stand behind that bloody tree. I mean, I don't know if you saw in the media how they're saying, "Oh, he was hiding in some sort of bush and he's in a suit, looking like he's he's like a ghost, but he's just stood behind a bloody tree. He's half in, half out. It looks well obvious. It's absolutely mind-boggling how it sort of all unfolded from that photo because you would have thought you would have seen him hidden right away, but he's just right in the open. I just couldn't believe it. But Middlesbrough Hull in the final, I think you just mentioned there how you think Middlesbrough will go on to win the game. But do you think it will be a more competitive game than if it was to be Middlesbrough versus Hull or Middlesbrough versus Southampton versus Hull? Because they're two different sides. But do you think that's an advantage to Hull that they've got Middlesbrough in the final now instead of Southampton?
No, I think they would have struggled to beat either of the sides. I think if
Yeah,
Southampton had
fair
got
enough.
there, it might have been a bit more of an entertaining spectacle. I think this is going to be quite a cagey game between these two teams, but Middlesbrough have got the quality.
Yeah,
You know, getting back to Hackney, I think there's a couple of things to say about him. He's the sort of player that Brighton desperately need because
yeah, I
he
agree.
plays the same role for Middlesbrough as Matty Grimes does at Coventry. You
Hmm.
wouldn't know that he was on the pitch a lot of the time, but then when you look at the stats, I think I said in one of our previous podcasts, Matty Grimes in one of those final games of the season had 106 passes and
Wow,
90% of them were accurate. And Hackney
incredible, isn't it?
plays the same role at Middlesbrough. And Middlesbrough
Yeah,
get promoted, he's going to stay at Middlesbrough. So in some respects, I'll be hoping that Hull win because I think that then opens the door for Brighton to
yeah,
try and beat
it's a signing.
a host of other clubs to try and get him. And if Brighton can offer him Europa League football, he might be tempted. Brighton
Yeah,
really haven't had a player like that since Billy Gilmore.
exactly. Yeah,
And I thought he really made Brighton tick, but he obviously didn't work for Hertzler. But they don't have that sort of player. I suppose Pascal Gross sort of does play that sort of role, but he's not.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not. He's more of a front foot player than a player that wants to just stay out the limelight and just keep things ticking over.
Mhm. Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, I think it don't really matter to the result because I think Hull will lose.
Mm,
Going to be a tough watch. I think it's going to be very, very cagey. And they were
yeah.
talking about it on the radio this morning. Said it's a £200 million game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I saw something about this. That I think the winner of the Bundesliga or something like that, a big European competition anyway, they got less money than Burnley got for getting relegated. I think Burnley got 50 million, and I feel like it was the Bundesliga, but it might be another league. I have to check, but it's just crazy how much money they got, and obviously that's going to add a lot of pressure onto that game as well, isn't it? That they've got so much money on the line going into that game, which could massively benefit them going into next season. Which is sort of why it's that extra special winning the playoffs in the championship, because you've got that massive reward if you go on to win that game. Whereas like Coventry have seen, they've struggled to get back in there into that final, and obviously they've got it now, but it is such a crucial game that can massively benefit you going into this season with Sunderland. Obviously, have had an absolutely incredible season, and going into the final day, possibly being into Europe, which is just crazy, isn't it? And that sort of, I mean, makes a statement about how you can sort of use that money to affect. I know not all of it's going to go towards transfer budget and buying players. Obviously, it will go to other things in and around the club, but this game is crucial for both teams, and it's a massive prize fund. To answer the question I asked, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think it will affect Hull because I think both teams would have been better than them. Obviously, Middlesbrough now, but it just looks like Middlesbrough are going to go do it. If they have Hayden Hackney, then I think they win the game. If they don't, it's put to question, as we saw in that Southampton game, because I think we both agree that if they had Hayden Hackney in that semi-final leg, they probably would have won. Because he would have kept, because you saw in that game, Middlesbrough were absolutely knackered in that extra time. So was Southampton, but players could barely, make an effort to get the ball. It was absolutely crazy to see how tired the players were. But yeah, I mean, you all said 69% of the decision. We obviously agree with that. So let's see how that final goes. I'm going to predict 3-1 to Middlesbrough because I just think Hull are a little bit less of a quality in terms the quality they have. They're a bit less in terms of the player for player. And obviously, Middlesbrough had the better season, but a little bit of drop off later in the season. But what do you think? Score prediction? I know you think Middlesbrough are going to win, but do you think it will be comfortable for them?
No, I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be the odd goal.
Yeah,
1-0 wouldn't surprise me, but the odd goal in three maybe. Um,
yeah,
I don't think Hull have got the calls to lay that much damage on Middlesbrough. If Middlesbrough stick to the game plan they've probably drawn up. But just getting back to Southampton, Don Eckhart is going to get sacked 100%.
yeah.
And
Something
the
like it.
reason he's going to get sacked is the backlash from the fan base and the players. The players apparently are absolutely fuming because
Mm,
they've got contracts that talk about
yeah.
getting to playing finals, getting promoted. What happens if you get promoted to this contract? It gets rewritten and you get an upgrade in salary. They are absolutely fuming as a group.
Mm.
And they're not far behind the supporters in terms of their disgruntlement. So I don't think the powers that be at Southampton have got any other alternative but to sack him, frankly.
Yeah, it's just a mental situation, and it's going to really damage his, managing career, which has only really just begun. This is his first managerial job, so it's it's really damaging to see what he's done and made and staff have to go and do. But we will unfold that final next episode. But we'll move on to League One, where we have another final, which is going to be between Bolton and Stockport after Stockport won 2-0 at home to Stevenage and won 3-0 on aggregate. I've got here 2-0, but it was 3-0 because they beat Stevenage in the away leg. Massive win for Stockport, made it comfortable. I think Louis Barry scored early on, and then Carl Wootton scored from centre half, which I thought was quite funny. Still bagging in the goals from centre half, even though he's traditionally a striker, which I think is absolutely brilliant that he's still getting on the score sheet. But a massive win for them, made it comfortable and sort of set the game off early and just called it off. Sort of 3-0. I think about 25 minutes in, it looked like there was no way coming back from Stevenage, even in that first half. And then going into the second, they didn't really look to create a lot. But Stockport looked like the deserved winners in this playoff semi-final, don't you think?
Yeah, they were. I didn't watch it after they scored that first goal, frankly, because it
Yeah,
was all over. I didn't think they'd get back into it. Stockport deserved their chance to play at Wembley, but just the game at Bradford just was unbelievable for level 3 football. It was
unreal.
just 28,000 people there.
Yeah,
Incredible atmosphere. And I watched the game. It was just pulsating 90 minutes from one end to the other. And Bradford looked like they'd scored and it was disallowed. And then
yeah,
Bolton at the other end with Xavier Simons, and he scored. And what was funny about it was he didn't know what to do after he scored. He went
yeah.
careering
He
off
was all over the place, wasn't he?
to the Bolton staff, realised that he didn't want to be with them. They went careering over the other side of the pitch where the Bolton supporters were losing their mind. It was hysterical. Um, I mean, I was watching it and I was thinking it's just going to be typical Bolton to draw this game, bearing in
Yeah,
mind that they've drawn a record number. I think it was 18 games they've drawn this season, which is the
crazy.
most
Yeah,
in the Football League. I think Sky actually put that stat up at one stage. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, they took their chance when it came. Bradford had pushed everything, all their chips on getting the goal that they needed, really, and they left themselves open. It was a great counter attack, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Bolton play in that final. I think it'd be a good game for them. I think with Koza Dubry and Sissoko, they're going to
yeah.
enjoy playing at Wembley, and I think they're going to do well. I think they're going to beat Stockport in that final.
Yes, I would agree. I think we've been very praised Bolton throughout the season, really, even though Stockport have got such good quality. Ollie Norwood in that Stockport team as well, Louis Barry scoring the goal, and Cole Wootton playing centre half as well. So it was poor defending. Moving on to the Bolton game, poor defending. I thought I don't know who the defender was for Bradford, but he just failed to clear the cross and Javier Simmons, but he made sure to punish him because it was an absolutely incredible finish, wasn't it, into that far-hand corner for just his second goal of the season, which I thought was funny. But just looking into detail in the game, I did a bit of information, and Bradford failed to beat Bolton 5 times this season in the league, in the playoffs, and also in the EFL Trophy, losing 3 of them and drawing twice. A bit of a bogey team, and what was a really successful season back in the League One for the first time in a long, long time after being promoted from League Two, obviously. But
Yeah, but
Max Power, the captain. No, go on.
no, I was just going to pick up on your point there about Max Power saying they're not to stand still. But I mean, they got nothing to be ashamed of, Bradford.
Yeah,
They came up via the playoffs last season. Oh no, they didn't come up via the playoffs, did they? But they got the final game of the season. They just sneaked
yeah,
into the places, didn't they?
yeah.
So they
Last
got the
second goal.
promotion by the skin of their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
They got nothing to
No,
be
I don't
ashamed
think
of
so.
coming up to Bolton. I think Bolton are a good team. They got some quality players. They got, you know, Koza Dewberry could quite conceivably, if Brighton get into the Europa League, quite conceivably be playing Europa League football for Brighton next season, because Brighton are going to want to have strength in depth in all their departments. Matoma's injury looks like it might be one that's going to take a while to resolve. And, what else have you got there? Solly March would probably move him on, I would have thought, given his injury history.
Hmm.
Minter. Gomez isn't really an out-and-out winger. I
No,
think if Brighton get Europa League football, they might be putting Koza Dewberry into their Europa League squad.
mm,
So that's the sort of quality Bolton have got. So Bradford got nothing to be ashamed of. And I think, you're attracting crowds of over 20,000. It's not the first time we've talked about how good their crowds have been. I think
no,
they're going to
yeah,
be in the box three to get automatic promotion next season. And it's one of the things that we spoke about before. These teams coming down, your Leicesters and your Sheffield Wednesdays, um, and your Oxfords getting relegated from the Championship. Don't think you're going to just bounce back up out of this League One, because there's
no.
some good teams coming up from League Two as well, which we're going to talk about in a bit. It's going to be tough, and I think Bradford will make it tough for everyone personally.
100%. Yeah, they've had a cracking first season back in this division. Massive credit to them. I think the problem they had in this game was, surprisingly, I think Stirling said it last episode, that Bolton might struggle with their defence, but they kept two clean sheets in this game, Bolton, which I was very surprised with. Going into it, you'd think, obviously it would be a goal fest, but obviously only 2 goals across both of the games. I think you make a great point. I think Bradford will make a massive, massive, massive impact on League Two next season in terms of what they'll do to some teams, because they've got such good quality, and it just depends on if they can keep that core of the squad. Because obviously, this season it's worked very well. Just their first season back in the league, and they go on to win, not win, but get into the playoffs, which is a massive win for them in the first place. Obviously, would have wanted to go on and get promoted, but that would have been very impressive if they went on to do that. I think they also will win the final, Bolton, with Cozy Dewberry and Sissoko, as you said, who I think both will flourish in that final. They'll take massive confidence with this game, especially I think with 2 clean sheets, which is a massive surprise that their defence has sort of got that. I mean, you could say the same about Stockport because they didn't concede any goals across both legs. So I think it just sets up a really, really good final. I think it'll be really tightly contested, this, but I think it might go extra time, but Bolton win it in extra time. Don't know what you think. I think it will be 2-1 Bolton after extra time, I reckon.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout. I think Bolton might win it a bit more comfortably than that. Personally, I think they might win it by a couple of goals. So, 2-0, 3-1. I think, talking about Ollie Norwood in midfield and players like that, I think they got much more quality, Bolton, frankly. So, I think they will win that game.
Yeah, I think Bolton are the favourites going into it. Stockport obviously not as experienced, you could say, but Stockport not as experienced as Bolton at all, because Bolton obviously Premier League side, Stockport not that long ago in the National League, so that could play into factor. But we both think that Bolton will come out on top in this playoff final and earn a place in the Championship next season. But we'll move on to the other league where we have playoffs still going on, and another final set up, which we did all call, which is Notts County versus Salford. First off, in the obviously, there's not much to speak about in the other game. We want to speak about Notts County versus Chesterfield, which was a 0-0 draw, which means Notts County won 1-0 across 2 legs, only 1 goal in 180 minutes of football, which I think is quite mad, but shows how Notts County had a plan and they clearly executed it. But in the Salford Grimsby game, I think it's the best game across the EFL playoffs because of how good it was. 7-goal thriller in the end, but Callum Cisse with an 117th minute winner in extra time to book Salford's spot at Wembley. No goals in the first half. It was quite a boring half. 3 shots between both of the sides, which sort of looked like it was going to be a dull game until both teams came out for the second half. But it got off got off the mark very early. I think it was 53rd minute. 53rd minute it was that I've got here. Odo with a goal, 10 goals, 8 assists from striker this season. He's had a very good season for Salford. But then 2 quick goals in succession from Grimsby. Kieran Green got one back to make it 3-2. And then 5 minutes later, Haze Kabia did it again to equalise the game in extra time. Kieran Green, obviously Grimsby getting that knocked out, but Kieran Green ended the season on 16 goals and 8 assists, and Kabia got 24 goals in his debut season in the EFL, but also for Grimsby, which I think he might earn himself a move higher up the pyramid with 24 League Two goals in your debut season. But if he was to set Grimsby, I think he'd be an absolutely integral part of what they want to do next season. But it looked like it was going to penalties when I was watching it, but then a moment of magic from Callum Ceesay. Scored in the first leg and he did it again in the second leg, 117th minute to win Salford game and get into the final. But absolutely incredible. It's going to be a confidence booster for me that they've got out on top in a 7-goal thriller like that, and the quality in the game, the opponent that they had in Grimsby, who are no mugs, with the likes of Kieran Green and Cabia scoring for them and other players across the pitch. I think they'll take bundles of confidence that they've got out on top in this semi-final leg with a win, just in terms of how difficult it was for them to get out on top.
Yeah, I think you're calling it right when you say it was the best game. I think, the atmosphere at Bradford Bolton was brilliant, but it was, only 1 goal. This sort of knocked that into a cocked hat, really, because it was a great atmosphere with not that many people in comparison. But yeah, I mean, it was ding dong in that second half, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I
yeah, it
thought
really
Salford,
was.
I thought Salford deserved to win it, frankly, because Cabia's goal, to me, looked like he was at least a yard offside, and I don't think if you they showed a still of it on Sky's coverage. As the ball gets knocked across, not only is he about a yard offside, but the linesman is about 5 yards behind the
Yeah,
play.
yeah,
It's nowhere
100%.
near it. He's,
100%. I completely
he,
agree.
he is guessing. He is
He didn't have
guessing.
a Scooby, did he? He
No,
was nowhere near it.
I mean, fair play to Cabia. He didn't know he was offside. He timed his run slightly
Yeah, exactly.
too late and got that goal. But I guess at that level, you're going to get that sort of thing happening. And to be honest with you, that is not an argument for bringing in VAR across the Football League. That is just an
Yeah.
observation. You get things like that happen. And they tend to balance themselves out, as it was proven in this game. I think
Mhm.
the thing that impressed me most about Salford was Carl Robinson didn't look like he was flustered at all.
No, no, he
Yeah,
didn't.
he looked like he kept a
Very
very even
composed.
period. Very composed, yeah, great word. He didn't lose it. He wasn't ranting and raving. He wasn't sitting there with his head in his hand or anything like that. He just was always talking to his team, his coaching staff, and he was coming up with different permutations and different plans.
Hmm.
And I'm pleased. I'm pleased they won it. And the big question really is, like you're alluding to, is are Grimsby going to be able to keep hold of Green and Cabia, because those are startling statistics for a team that only got into the playoffs in the last 2 or 3 games of the season. I know they
Yeah.
had games in hand that they were catching up on, but I think they'll do well to keep hold of those two. As for the final, I mean, you could literally toss a coin in the air and argue for either of them winning it, really. I was just looking at the odds, and the bookmakers can't decide who the favourite is. I think they've got Notts County slight favourites, but it's a very marginal thing.
It is. Yeah, very
In
emotional.
Salford, I'm going to back Salford just because I was impressed by the way, as I said, Carl Robertson managed that semi-final, and the fact that Salford won both league meetings 2-1, home and away.
Oh, right. Okay. Nice.
And they got a couple of attacking players coming back into their squad, Salford, Callum Hendry and Kelly and Meyer. So I
All
think
right. Okay.
they just about have the advantage. But I think that's one where you sit down, turn it on, and think to yourself, we're going to be here in 2 hours' time, and it's going to be going into extra time. So we might as well
Yeah.
just book 3 hours in for this one.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I think this is going to be a really, really good game because Notts County defended for their lives in this game against Chesterfield, which I'll briefly speak about because it wasn't the most entertaining game, but you could see how much it meant to the Notts County fans because they could probably tell. I mean, I could tell from the highlights early on, from the amount of chances that Chesterfield had, that they had a game plan and they implemented it, that they weren't going to concede in this game, and they achieved that. So you've got to give it to them. They got their goal away from home at Chesterfield, going into that second leg, knowing that they've got that advantage, which we said last episode, and we raved on about it last episode, that one goal is such a huge advantage going to the second leg. And I think this is a massive way of sort of proving that point, that Notts County knew what they had to do. They knew they weren't going to concede. And if they did that, they were going to go through because of what they did in the first leg. So massive credit to Notts County. In terms of the final, I do agree with you. I think I said Salford when we first predicted this, but I think this game sort of proves it because I think I said earlier that it's just such a tightly contested game. To be able to get out on top of it is a massive, massive advantage for them because, a 7-goal thriller, if you get knocked out the way that Grimsby had, obviously it's not going to detriment them this season, next season, sorry, but it's gonna be a really damaging one to take in that they've lost in the 117th minute. Oh, we look like we've got a visitor. Here he is, Sterling. How are you, mate? A bit of a nightmare. Bit of a
Absolute
nightmare,
night.
mate. Oh, how
Oh,
are you?
I'm good. It took me an hour and 20 minutes basically to get back from Crawley, and it actually took
Unbelievable.
me 40 minutes just to get to Hayward Heath from Crawley. It's an absolute joke.
That is an absolute disgrace, mate. I mean, we'll get your thoughts briefly. We're on League Two at the minute, but let's get your thoughts briefly.
Get me up to
Going,
speed, mate.
get me up to speed. Exactly. We got the Premier
Straight into
League.
it.
Premier League. Arsenal champions and Brighton European race. What do you think of both of them? Obviously, Pep leaving City, Arsenal winning the league for the first time in 22 years, and we've both been saying on our fantasy group chat that we are, we're a nervous wreck even for 72 hours before kickoff. What do you think of it?
Yeah, really happy for Arsenal actually, seeing all the fans celebrating.
Yeah,
Was nice to see, they're a proper fan base and they've waited so long. So some emotional scenes, and they've got some likable players, like even though he's ex Palace, I like Eze, I like Saka, I love Declan Rice. Um, and yeah, I mean, as much as I've definitely been salty towards how Arsenal have played, like the Amex and times this season, um, they have deserved it. Really, there's more to football than just playing fancy and scoring goals. They are brilliant defensively. They've got structure. Arteta's put a group together that has been built for winning this and finally getting over the line, and they've done it. So I was really happy for them. Um, Quite a way to do it as well. See
yeah,
all the players out at 5 a.m. is hilarious, to be honest.
yeah. That's
Um,
quality, wasn't it?
um,
Yeah,
terms of Brighton briefly, because I have to keep it brief on I to wrap this up. We don't want to be doing too much repeating and going back on
yeah.
ourselves. But
That's all right.
yeah, no, nervous about Brighton. It's a massive game, one of the biggest games in the club's history, to be honest.
100%. Yeah,
there's still a chance, I believe, in us getting Champions League. Now Villa have won. If Bournemouth lose and we win because we got superior goal difference, and then I think Villa need to lose and then Liverpool need to win. So,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know, there's a multitude of reasons why it's nerve wracking, but just get into Europe, and I think we'll be happy, and just go and win the game. Which we've got quite a good record against United, but I think now they've turned a page. Personally, they've
Yes.
actually come third this season as well, so fair play to them.
Yeah, and it's confirmed going into the last day, which was what me and Simon was saying before, that they've got nothing to play for. They'll probably be on the beach, so they're confirmed in third place. So, yeah, there's your thoughts there. Championship, the scandal. It's been confirmed that Southampton have been kicked out of the playoffs for spying. 3 games was Oxford. We were saying this earlier, weren't we, Simon? It's funny that the games they spied on, all 3 of them, they didn't even bloody win. 2-1 away defeat to Oxford, 2-2 draw to Ipswich, and they drew 0-0 in the first leg to Middlesbrough.
I
They
didn't
tried
even
to.
see that. That's quite
Oh,
funny.
it's
Actually.
so funny, isn't it? That they've even tried
Yes.
to go and appeal and try to get the win, and they've not even won any of them. It's so funny. But they tried to
It's
appeal the decision, it got declined, and now they've got a 4-point deduction. What do you think?
yeah. They're kind of backtracking now as well, aren't they? Saying that they thought it was a bit harsh, but Southampton's a club with integrity and they've got to
Yeah,
kind of win people's trust back. I think it is ultimately the right decision. Like, they got to stamp down on that. Like, I don't think it's right. It's not sportingly, is it? It's not demonstrating good values and in terms of the game. So,
yeah,
yeah, it's definitely the right thing. I mean, it's funny that they didn't win any of those games, and I don't know if you've spoken about this already, but Tonderecker might actually lose his job over it.
we did.
That's
Yes, it's
yeah, which I think is
incredible,
quite
isn't it?
crazy. It's
Yeah,
quite crazy. Maybe he was going behind, the hierarchy's backs and doing
yeah,
it that way, which is really naughty. But it'd be a
yeah.
shame for him. But suspect it wasn't just those 3 games, though. To be honest,
Yeah,
that
it could
they
have been more. That's
actually
the one they've admitted to, but you could say that they've done even more, couldn't you?
definitely.
100%. And just finally, before we get on to what we were at, League One, Cozy Dewberry, Sissoko at Wembley, because we've got the final between Stockport and Bolton. Stockport, comfortable 2-0 win. It was over after about 20 minutes in the second leg with Wootton and Louis Barry scoring. And then Bolton getting a late goal from Xavier Simmons, absolute scenes. Me and Simon were saying he didn't really know what to do with himself when he was celebrating. But Stockport Bolton final, how do you think it's going to unfold?
I think Bolton are going to win. Cozy Dewberry Masterclass. No need to say any more, mate. Keep it short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Look
Cozy
back on
Dewberry
this. He's going Cozy Dewberry
Masterclass. He comes
masterclass.
back to the Albion.
Yeah,
Bosh.
exactly. Me and Simon were saying that Bolton were going to win this as well. I said, I think 2-1 after extra time, didn't I, Simon? And you said 2-0. If you had to have a score prediction, what would it be?
I think Stockport are a good team. I'll go 2-1 Bolton.
2-1. Decent. Normal time or after extra time?
After extra time.
Same as me. Same as me. All right. We'll track back at that come the end of next week, which I think is going to be a crazy episode because we'll see a lot of winners of everything and basically the end of the podcast for this season, really, with basically every league ending after this episode. So it's going to be an emotional end. But finally, we've just spoken about it. Notts County Salford. Notts County are through. 0-0 draw. Only one goal across both legs in a 1-0 aggregate win against Chesterfield. And then an absolutely crazy game. Me and Simon agreed on it that this was probably the best game the playoff had in the EFL. 4-3
Yeah,
win for
100%.
Salford. 2-2 draw. 117th minute from Callum Ceesay to send them to Wembley.
Yeah, out
Credit to
scenes.
Grimsby, absolute carnage. But Salford, me and Simon were saying, will have a lot of confidence being on top of a 7-goal thriller. but Notts County will have a lot of confidence that, they set out a game plan. They had that goal advantage in the first leg. They knew they had that goal advantage and set a game plan and wanted to make sure they didn't concede in the second leg, and they did that. So Notts County know they've got that defensive stability, but Salford know they can go forward and score. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be a cracking final.
Yeah.
Me and Simon both said Salford. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough one to call. When I came in, I heard you briefly speaking about it. It is tough, I agree. It's a really hard one to call. I'd go for Salford. I said that at the beginning of the when the semi-finals were announced and the playoffs were done. I'll stick to my intuition with that and my thoughts, stick to my guns, and I'll go Salford. Don't know how it's going to unfold. Think it'll probably be a bit of a mad game, to be honest. But yeah, I'll go Salford.
Decent. We will move on to the National League. We've got our predictions from the start of the season to unfold here. It's better in the National League than the Isthmian Prem, thank God, because we did very badly. But we do have a new winner. Simon, you have got the win in the National League. Congratulations. 100 points in first place. Sterling in second with 105, and I came last again with 122. I've had a bit of a stinker in these
He's trying to
predictions.
keep a straight face, but he's actually buzzing
He's
about that.
buzzing inside, isn't he? Yeah, I mean, I got Rochdale and York correct, like the order, which I was quite happy with. I got Southend right as well. But apart from that, I got some. Obviously, we've mentioned this. Bournemouth, we got horrendously wrong. All of us having them in 23rd, 19 positions wrong, which was a heavy, heavy one for all of us. Why do I keep saying Southampton? Sutton United, I had in 7th, and you had them in 6th, Sterling, and Simon had them in. Where did you have a 9th? And they finished in, 19th, I think? So that was quite a damaging one as well to our scores. But yeah, Simon, you are the winner in this one, which is that we can see at the end. Don't try to look at the bottom of the page because that's where you can see the winner of the predictions. But some absolute howlers in this one, but not as bad. It's our best league, a little clue from the National League South, because that's a little bit worse, but National League was our best. Having a look at it, what do you think of your personal predictions? Obviously, I've done the worst. I think it was the best one I did, but having a look back at your predictions, what do you think of them?
I think I did better in National League South, to be honest.
You smashed it. You smashed it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. The National League's really tough, anyway.
Yeah.
It's really tough to call and to pick out teams, especially at the beginning of this season, because we didn't have as good knowledge of it. But
Yeah.
I'm relatively happy with it, to be honest. Those two at the top, especially. I mean, I feel like they were the easiest ones to call, probably. But yeah.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Dad? You happy because you won?
Yeah, well, I think York and Truro were quite obviously the best and the worst teams in that division, so that was quite straightforward. But as you say, getting Sutton wrong, damaging for me, and Boreham Wood completely wrong, the same as everybody else. So,
Yeah, I
as you
think
say,
this one we
next
kept quite of
season,
them
bit
quite
more,
compact. Actually, we didn't get
yeah,
any of them massively wrong, apart from Sutton and Boreham Wood, which is actually not too bad in the end. So I think
yeah,
that's a mission success a little bit compared to the Isthmian Premier Division. But National League South, in first place, Stirling. Another win for you, mate. 118 points. I came second for once. I didn't come last. I got 131. And Simon, you came last with 140. I mean, this
How many did I
one,
get? 108?
118 you got.
118.
I
Take
got
that.
131, and Simon, you got 140. Mine and Simon's worst one was Dagenham and Redbridge winning the league. They came 13th, and obviously Eastbourne Borough. We all had an absolute stinker on that. I had them in the just outside the person 8th. Simon, you had him in 5th, so even worse than me. And Stirling, you had it the best out of the bunch in 11th, but still 13 points. But
Yeah.
Dagenham and Eastbourne for this one were the most damaging one. Even Chesham for some of us. I think they surprised a lot of us. And Hornchurch for me. I had them in 15th. They finished obviously in the playoffs and get promoted. So
Where
have a
did
look
we
at.
all have Worthing?
I had them in 4th. You had them at 2nd, and Simon had them outside the playoffs.
Oh, that's
Oh
howler.
no! Having a look back at your predictions, lads, what do we think of these? I mean, I'm happy I haven't come last in one of them. I'll take that going into next season. What do we think?
I
Having
did
a look
pretty
back.
well with this. I had
Yeah, you
Dorking
did.
in the right position, didn't I? I had Dorking. I
I
think I
I
had
had Enfield. I'll take that. You got relegated, but there you go, Enfield
yeah,
fans. I predicted your sorrows.
yeah. I had Torquay right. I'm pretty sure, or like a couple off. So I'm pretty pleased with mine.
What do you think, Simon? Your first defeat.
I'm not too disappointed. I got talking Dorking second and third, so I didn't get them too far wrong, and I got Chippenham and Enfield to go down as well, so it wasn't too bad. The one that let me down, as you say, is Eastbourne Borough. I mean, a
Yeah,
completely
bad,
stupid
isn't it?
comment there, that fall from grace, really. But I think that's the trouble. I've said this countless times at this level. Squads just get overhauled, and it's we're covering all these divisions. It's difficult to keep
Yeah,
abreast of it all, and I just did not see Eastbourne playing Isthmian League football next season. I really didn't. Dagenham and Redbridge, I mean, they're a massive club. They're a Football League club a few years ago. I can't believe that they're
crazy. Yeah,
still
They'll
in
do
crazy.
better next season.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Also,
now that they got Big Andy in charge and
yes.
some sort of rapper, is it KSI or something?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
YouTuber,
Big
rapper.
money. Yeah.
yeah,
I think one that escaped us all was Horsham, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yes, Horsham surprised a lot of us. Yes, 100%. They were very,
Yeah.
very surprising. Really good team. But we'll speak about in our predictions videos for all these leagues. We'll summarise every team briefly in them episodes. Not now because obviously we'll be here for quite a while if we went through every single one of them. But we'll briefly do it. Cover how they did this season and how they can take that into the coming season. But that's just so we can get out of the way. So there won't be any video reacting to our predictions that we did. We'll just be mentioning them in our predictions for next season in the 2026-27 season in series number 2 of the podcast. But now we can reveal the winners. Who has gone and won the non-league predictions from the start of the season? In last place with 411 points is George Brooks. Absolute stinker from
Hey.
there. Oh, my hands up. Sorry, everyone. 122 for the National League, 131 for the National League South, 158 from the Ishbian Premier Division. Stinker
Oh,
from me. I'm
stinkers, mate.
open to perform better next season. All this bloody information I did in the summer, literally didn't mean nothing. Did the worst. Can't believe it. In second place, with 390 points is Simon. just
Ah,
just
well
Hey.
done.
losing 390 points, 100 points for the National League, 140 for the National League South, and 150 for the Ishmael Prem. And your winner with 172 points, 105 for the National League, 118 for the National League South, and 149 for the Ishmael Premier Division is Stirling. Well done, mate.
Come on.
Congratulations, you are the winner. How you feeling? How you both feeling? I'm absolutely gutted. I can't believe I finished last, but how
I'm
you
gonna
both feeling?
get a tattoo of Crave Valley Paper Mills.
That's the reason you didn't win.
I'm the one if you won't
I'm
believe.
pretty pleased with myself.
I think if you
I'm
put
pretty
Craig Valley
pleased with
Paper
myself.
Mills a bit lower, then you might have been in with a chance. Same with me with Lewis.
Yeah. I'm pretty pleased with myself with that actually, because it's tough, and it was good fun. We put a lot of work into it, so it's nice to see it's paid off there. Up the
Yeah.
Worthing.
Yeah, exactly. Up the Worthing. Hopefully Lewis stay up. I'll probably predict them to go down next season now, put them in the playoffs. But yeah, good that we've got a little reaction for you there. We compiled all the results for you. We will do it briefly for the leagues above. We did our little super, what was it, Monday night
Super
football
Six,
championship.
yeah, Monday
Yeah, so
night.
we'll react to that once the EFL and Premier League has ended as well. But there's your winner, Stirling, Simon in second and me in third for the non-league. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week with, I think, the last episode of this season, which is going to be a crazy one. We look forward to it, and we will see you next time. Bye bye. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.